Welcome to the Pacific Islanders broadcast, a voice of South Pacific from Seattle, Washington. Good morning, everyone. Today is May 21st, 2024. We're so glad that we got this opportunity to lead us with a word of prayer with Pastor Aseli. Then we'll continue on with our great topic today, breast cancer awareness. I would like to ask Pastor Aseli, please lead us with a word of prayer, and then we'll continue on. Thank you.
Let's begin with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for our time together, Lord, that you have brought us here to unite in this reason, oh God, to inform our people, inform our community, and also, Lord, individuals that are going to join us today to be aware of what, Lord, that is in store and also what is at stake right now for each and every one of us. I pray for your divine intervention and divine empowerment upon each and every individual, oh God. And also to those that are going to join us, help us today get to be aware of this and also to learn what we need to know in the name of Jesus today. We give you praise, we give you glory for the opportunity that you have given us today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you,
Amen.
Pastor Aseli. He's from the islands of Fiji. And we would like to welcome uh, Jody Olson. She's a specialist, from the Seattle King County Public Health. Also, we have our other co-host here from a different minority, like Sina Aloita Funapeka. She's the leader of the senior program in Tongan community. Also, I see Kate Cole and I see Lupe Talamoni from the Samoan community. And we have others, I'm sure that they will be joining us. Okay, Brenda Kellick, she's from the islands of the Marshallese, but she's also working with the King County Public Health. Before I continue on, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Judy Olson. And I would like to give the first opportunity, for our pastor that did, the word of prayer, because the topic today is one of the most relevant topic, for our Pacific Islanders community, breast cancer awareness. Pastor Aseli, can you lead us, with a question? Then we'll continue on.
Okay, I think my since I was assigned first, I would like to just to for our host to even to inform us what is a breast cancer and how can like I know it deals with women, but if we can be informed with what is normally what is breast cancer and also the risk that is involved in breast cancer.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me today. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and I am with a program that is one of the many programs of public health. It's called the Breast, Cervical, and Colon Health Program. And the purpose of the program is to get people into cancer screening. So my focus today is to help you understand what breast cancer is and how we can prevent it and how we can make sure that it's if a woman has breast cancer or a man, because it happens for both men and women, how to make sure that you get it at the earliest stage where it's really the easiest to treat. So breast cancer, like any other cancer, are cells that are basically cells that are not supposed to be in our body, and once they start forming, and there's a variety of reasons why cancer cells do form. Once they start forming, they can cause various masses in really any parts of our body. In the case of breast cancer, it's usually in the mammary glands, and usually a person cannot feel a lump. And I will talk about that a little later. And that's why being screened for cancer on a regular basis is really important, because those cells can be kind of a silent situation for many women and men. They don't know it until it's fairly far along. That's why regular screening is important. And breast cancer is a very common cancer. It's the most common diagnosed cancer among women in the United States. It's the second leading cause of cancer death in women in the US, followed by lung cancer. The American Cancer Society is an organization that pays a lot of attention to what cancers are most prevalent in our communities. And they do a lot of research every year to help people understand what's being done for all the various cancers. And so they're a really good resource in terms of finding information about really any cancer. In terms of breast cancer, about 313,000 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in the United States this year. And an estimated 43,000 women will die from breast cancer in 2024. In Washington State, approximately 7,500 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed, with approximately 960 deaths. So that's kind of what cancer is all about. Those are statistics. And I really want to focus on, how women can really take charge of their bodies and make sure that, like I said earlier, that if they have breast cancer, that they catch it at the earliest possible stage, because there's so much hope for breast cancer and really a lot of other cancers. And we live in a part of the United States that has a lot of wonderful research organizations that are looking at new treatments that are less toxic, but actually do a better job in the long run, which again, I will talk about later as well. So that's breast cancer in a very small nutshell.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Before we continue on, I would like to ask everybody that in with us, please share it, share to your friends right now, so that the people in your community and also your friends, could be able to get, to receive the same information that we're having the discussion on right now. Please go ahead and share it. It's on Facebook page, Voice of South Pacific, and also on YouTube live right now. Also, I will go give the chance, next to Lupe Talamoni. Go ahead and ask a question. I know there are some other people that are trying to join in with us. Lupe from the Samoan community and also one of the Pacific Navigator.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sylvia. For Samoan community, it's very rare back in the islands to have the breast cancer, this cancer. But here in America, we've been seeing and we've been navigating, and also we have so many Samoan communities for the illness, the breast cancer. But I'm wondering, what's the survival rate of breast cancer, please?
Sure. Really important question, because I think for many of our mothers and certainly our grandmothers, their survival rate for breast cancer was not great. In the last 30 years, it's improved greatly. And I think, as I mentioned, research has really helped us understand how treatment choices affect different kinds of breast cancer, because there are different stages of breast cancer, different types of medication, different types of breast cancer, and all these different medications that are available to treat cancer can target breast cancer more efficiently. And also the other thing that I really want to stress is that there's a lot of strategies to deal with the side effects of treatment, because a lot of people, again, 30, 40 years ago, felt that the treatment was almost worse than the cancer and that they felt really sick. And they've come so far in treating the side effects of the treatment so that people can live pretty active lives during cancer treatment. right now, there's a lot of treatment that actually targets the bad cancer cells and preserves the good cells so that you can stay healthier during treatment. There is a lot of reasons to feel hopeful about surviving cancers and living longer with cancer. I know women who have a later stage cancer, but are able to live fairly good lives, and they have to see their doctors regularly, but they work with a doctor or the physician assistant or the nurse practitioner to better understand how they can live with their cancer. So it's almost like, for some people, a chronic disease. They can live with their cancer for many years. But it's a really important, and this is will be my theme throughout my conversation with you today. It's really important that you follow through with all aspects of diagnostic tests and with treatment. I think learning as much as you can about the treatment and asking questions and being involved in the treatment is really, really important. Also, especially for Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women, much of the research that we have for cancer is from white women. It's not from other ethnicities. And I would encourage you to let people know that research is really important, and getting involved in research studies are really important. The population, like I said, is underrepresented in terms of cancer and other health-related studies. This also contributes to the lack of understanding of the risk factors and screening data, which is unfortunate because it doesn't provide the whole picture in what appears Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander women are dealing with in terms of cancer disparities. For the survival rate, and I'll give you some more statistics, for breast cancer survival rate, it ranges from, for example, in the Tongan community, 72 to 74%. In the Chamorro and Guam community and Samoan women, it's up to 94% survival rate, and that's usually a 5-year survival rate. Japanese women have the highest survival rate, which is about 97%, and white women have a 93% survival rate. So actually, some of the Pacific Islander communities have a better survival rate than white women. But cancer disparities in Pacific Islander women are more striking. 7%, they have a 7% lower cancer mortality compared to whites, but the death rates are 30% higher for breast cancer. So overall, for all of cancers combined, Pacific Islanders have a 7% lower rate, but for breast cancer, they have a 30% higher rate than white women do for in terms of death for breast cancer. So it's really important, I think, to again make sure that you're going in regularly for screenings, and, as I mentioned, getting involved in research studies so the research can really look at what treatments seem to be more effective for Pacific Islander women. And they've done a lot of work around Black women, because Black women tend to have cancer earlier, and they're looking at why this is happening so they can better target the treatment for Black women. The other thing is that Pacific Islanders generally have later stage cancer diagnosis than white individuals. And usually the gaps are larger with the Samoan and the Tongan women. And later stage diagnosis is largely reflected due to barriers in access to breast cancer screening. The fact that the higher numbers don't have a consistent source for healthcare is a big part of that. Breast cancer is very treatable, and most women or people can survive breast cancer, but it's really important that they catch the cancer early when and that's why screening is so important, because treatment is easier when the cancer is diagnosed earlier. A word about COVID. I just wanted to also mention COVID, because I think during COVID, it really had an impact on screening. So cancer screening regularity for cancer screening became really a problem, and it's really suffered and hasn't got really caught up since before COVID, and it still remains low. This includes breast, cervical, and colon cancer screening. Those three cancers all have really good screening tools, but people are not going back and getting screened the way they were before COVID. So I think that's the other thing that maybe has changed the way people have been diagnosed lately. I think people are getting diagnosed later. I think if you listen to my cervical cancer presentation, I mentioned to you that day that I was diagnosed with cancer myself during COVID. I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and it was a late stage cancer. And I partly blame that on COVID because I had a hard time getting appointments. And I had to wait almost 6 months for one of the screenings. So getting in regularly for just regular cancer screening is really important so that you can get back on that schedule. And I'll talk about what the schedules are for breast cancer screening in a little bit.
Did it answer your question, Lupe?
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. The next one will switch over to Sina Aloitafuna Pekka. She's the leader of senior program for the Tongan community. Go ahead, Sina.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. As a Pacific Islander, what I see for the last 20 years, I have not seen so many Pacific Islanders who diagnosed with breast cancer. And I want to know, as a Pacific Islander, if you have a mammogram that shows something irregular, so we react to a lot of answers, not knowing the details. Can you explain a little bit about irregular mammograms and what are the steps that a doctor will take? Thank you.
Yes. So I'll talk a little bit about what screening is and why you go in for certain kinds of screenings and what sometimes people will hear from their doctors after they do a screening. So breast cancer screening usually starts around age 40. The U.S. Preventative Task Force, which is a committee of credentialed medical providers, they rate screenings and look at the effectiveness of screenings. They recently lowered the screening rate to age 40 for breast cancer from age 50. This means you should get a clinical breast exam, which is when your provider, whether that's a nurse practitioner, a physician assistant, or a doctor, they actually palpitate your breast and see if they can find any lumps by doing this clinical breast exam. And then they will also refer you to a mammogram, which is a type of X-ray. And right now, the recommendations are every other year for average risk women. And I haven't talked about risk factors, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. If you have an increased risk, which includes family history, like a sister or your mom having, or even your grandmother having breast cancer, you might want to have screenings every year. And you may need those more frequent screenings. It's important that your decision for how often you screen is balanced with your personal risk. Part of the reason for the change to start mammograms at age 40 is that in the past decade or so, more cancers have been found in younger women, especially Black women. I also want to mention self-examination. For many years, many organizations recommended that people do breast self-examinations of their own breast. But in the last decade, the guidance for breast self-examination has been really eliminated, notably by that U.S. Preventative Task Force. And the reason was that they felt that there was not evidence for or against breast self-examination for improving early diagnosis of breast cancer. In addition, many breast cancers, are picked up by a mammogram before you can detect it by touch. However, my personal viewpoint is that knowing your body is very important, and knowing that what your breasts feel like could lead to you finding something down the road that may need checking at an earlier stage. So, The same goes for other issues like changing bowel habits or skin changes, abdominal discomfort. None of those maybe have to do with breast cancer, but they may be related to something else. And giving that information is really important. It can hurt, but breast exam isn't a replacement for mammograms. If you know your family has a history of a certain cancer, share that information with the provider. Some families don't necessarily share history of cancers, but it can be very helpful to ask questions of your parents or your aunts and uncles, so you know your family history, all your family health related history. One of the most common genes that affect breast cancer and ovarian cancer is the BRCA or BRCA1 and 2 genes. If a person has a mutation or disruption in those genes, it might impact your risk for breast and ovarian cancer. These genes are usually inherited from a parent, but other family history risks are also important to know. Like, for example, if you have a father that had colon or prostate cancer, it might mean you have an increased risk for breast cancer. Some people have shared with me that they would rather not know their family history because it increases worry. I look at knowledge as power and having more choices down the road for what kinds of treatment you might want to get or what kinds of screening you might want to get. White women have the highest rate of breast cancer, and Black women have the highest rates of breast cancer deaths due to more triple negative breast cancer. Again, all of that has to do with the research that they've done in the past. Asian Pacific Islander, as I mentioned in the cervical cancer talk that I did, they're lumped together. So if you look at it as a Asian Pacific Islander group, the rates for breast cancer look pretty low. But when you take out the Asian population and you just look at Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders separately, the rates for breast cancer are similar to white women. The other thing I wanted to mention, and this hopefully will answer more of your question, is a lot of women are told that they have dense breasts. And in fact, about 50% of women have dense breasts. And that means that you might have to get more diagnostic kinds of screening. It doesn't mean you have cancer. It just means that your breasts are hard to see on an X-ray. So they sometimes have to do a more specialized X-ray or a mammogram of your breasts to see what's behind the superficial parts of your breast. So it's a little more involved, but it's not uncommon. As I said, about 50% of women have what providers call dense breasts. Did I answer?
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense.
Question? Okay.
Yes.
Before we continue on, this is about few minutes before 10:30, so we're about like half hour going through, and I'll take these 3 more minutes to play us a little melodious song, and then we'll continue on. Brenda Kelly is with us also, and I have other two. Also, just a reminder, we also have the Health Summit. Is this coming Friday? Please don't miss it out. It will be at the King County Aquarium on 348. You can Google it, 348, and Radio Tech, it's right there. You can see the flyer, and it will be run, by the youth. We have some culture dance, culture food, also a Thai drink, everything. But it's just like a one-time thing that we also uplift, our community for a healthy lifestyle. everyone, and just a reminder, please share it, to all your friends, or just let anybody to tune in, because this is one of the most relevant topic, for everybody. But the breast cancer, that's one of the biggest cancer that most affected our Pacific Islanders community, right on Sina, eh? Just like what Sina mentioned, yeah. I've seen a lot of the people in our community have been affected by the breast cancer. Okay, and I'll give this opportunity for Brenda Kellick. Brenda Kellick is one of our King County Public Health rep. Brenda, can you hear us?
Yes, Sylvia, I can hear you. So thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, everyone. Yahweh, everyone. I'm here on this meeting as a community leader. This is where I sit at. So the next question is, what kinds of treatment are available for breast cancer, and how successful are these treatments?
Oops.
I think she was asking what kinds of treatment are available for breast cancer and how successful are they?
Right. Sorry. Well, there's usually a combination of treatments. It really depends on the type of cancer. For breast cancer, it depends on the stage of cancer. Treatment could include a lumpectomy, which is when if a lump is found, they will remove the actual lump of the cancer and usually do a biopsy to make sure they got the entire lump and there was no margins, what they call margins, to make sure that it hadn't spread to any other parts of the breast. A lumpectomy is usually the least invasive part of or type of treatment for cancer. A mastectomy is when they actually take the entire breast, and sometimes they do both breasts, even though only one is effective, especially if you have one of those genes that I talked about, the BRCA1 and 2 genes, because you have a higher risk for the cancer to be in the other breast as well. So sometimes they will either do a double mastectomy or a single mastectomy. Usually you will have chemotherapy or radiation or both after you have one of those procedures. Again, it really depends on the stage, which could be, based on the stage, it could be a combination of any of those treatments that I mentioned. If cancer is contained to a small area, the staging is lower. If the cancer is spread to other areas, the staging is higher. So it's pretty easy to understand. Staging for breast cancer is stage 0 to stage 4. Not all cancers have a stage 0, but breast cancer does. Going back to my comments before, getting regular screening has a higher likelihood that a person would have a lower stage. Lower stage usually mean that it's easier to treat and usually lead to better long-term outcomes. As I mentioned earlier, cancer treatments for breast cancer are evolving to be better and safer and more effective. We have such great researchers throughout the world, really, but specifically in the Pacific Northwest, we have a lot of researchers dedicated to understanding cancer and to finding better treatments that are effective and have as few side effects as possible.
Did it answer your question, Brenda?
Yes, that's answered my question. But can I just add one more question?
Of course.
Now you're going stage 0 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
So with the stage 4, how success that one? Like if you're on treatment for stage 4, is it something that maybe can be curable, or it's always?
Usually when you have
Right.
when you have stage 4 cancer, it's usually also considered metastatic disease, meaning that has moved to other parts of the body. That's not to say that it cannot be cured or at a stage where you probably will have to have regular mammograms, like maybe usually the first few years, it's every 6 months to make sure nothing has changed. Most people with stage 4 will always be kind of on alert about their cancer, but they can live for many years with stage 4 cancer. So it's not what I think women considered that to be a death sentence in 15, 20, 30 years ago. It's no longer that situation. But again, going back to my earlier statement, it's really important to find a provider, find a physician that you really like and trust, and that you can work with them to do the best you can in terms of dealing with that stage 4 cancer.
Thank you so much, Jody. That's really great, because that's one of the stigma. Everybody thinks that if you're on stage 4, there's the death sentence. So thank you so much for the clarification.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll take this opportunity. I know that maybe this question here has maybe been asked, but I also see somebody was texting, saying, what are the things, that will help, to prevent breast cancer?
Sure. Yeah, we haven't really talked about risks for breast cancer. So I want to talk a little bit about what are the risk factors for breast cancer, because that will also help you answer that question about what you can do to maybe lessen your chances of cancer. So in terms of all women, all races, all ethnicities, women have approximately 1 in 8 chance of getting breast cancer in their lifetime, or developing breast cancer in their lifetime. But I think the important thing to remember is that means that 7 of 8 women will not be diagnosed with breast cancer. So when you look at it that way, it looks better, I think. So 1 in 8 women, though, in their lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. The biggest risk factor is age. So the older you get, that's the biggest risk factor. We can't do anything about getting older, but we can do a lot about some other risk factors. I've already mentioned family history, and family history for breast cancer does increase individuals' risk, but not for everybody. It's actually a very small percentage. So if your mother or your grandmother or your sister had breast cancer, you need to be aware of that so that you talk to your provider about that. But it doesn't mean that you will automatically get breast cancer. It just means that you might have a slightly individual higher risk. For breast cancer, as unlike, for example, cervical cancer, there's a lot of lifestyle choices that you can change or consider that help prevent breast cancer. And they've done a lot of research on lifestyle choices for a lot of different cancers, but breast and colon have probably the biggest impact in terms of lifestyle, like what you eat, if you smoke, your alcohol intake. Certain lifestyle choices do increase risk for some cancers, and that does include breast cancer. So it's really important for people to be physically active. And that means you don't have to go work out at a gym, but finding an activity or exercise you like to do and you can stick with, like if you like to walk, or if you like to garden, or if you like to dance, do those things, and do those things often and regularly. Maintain a healthy diet or weight by eating a diet that limits processed food. They've done a lot of research about what processed foods, how it impacts not only cancers, but other health problems as well. Really focus on homemade meals that include lean protein and veggies and fruit. And you've heard that all before, but I can't emphasize enough the importance of healthy eating and active living. Also, limit alcohol intake and don't smoke. And smoking kind of goes with all the cancers. It's really important, not if you smoke, to try to quit. All of that information is finding a healthy balance, and it doesn't mean you have to, diet. It just means finding a healthy diet. So I really want to emphasize healthy balance with that, with risk factors. before I go on, any other questions about risk factors?
Those are good information. We always have a program on a weekly basis with a Tongan doctor, and he put an emphasis, like on trying to prevent the processed food, and like trying to advise us, live a healthy life, eat, like with vegetables and fruit and rest, but one thing he always mentioned in every program, try to limit the processed food. But thank you, like I can hear you saying that too. Thank
And
you.
I think it's, if you want to go and have a hamburger, once a week, it's just finding that healthy balance, or once a month. If it's a treat and you want to go out to eat, and it's fine, but it's again, probably not fine if you do it 7 days a week.
Oh, yes. Okay, thank you.
I
I
have a
have
quick
someone on
question.
the phone here. Before we continue on, I have Osai Safi. Thank you. Just please share it, the program, because we have everybody that are tuning in. And most things, this is a great topic for the Pacific Islanders. We really have a lot of our people in the community that are being affected by the breast cancer. Okay, I have welcome Brenda Kongaika. Go ahead and ask your question about the breast cancer or anything that you wanted to say, to share.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sylvia. This question is probably a little far out of the moon, but I will ask it anyways because it's very general. I'm asking, why is it that some of us have, let's say, our own physician, own doctor, who check us every month for good health and wellness, right? And all of a sudden, he will say, not all of a sudden, in every other month, he would say, we'll see you next month. And you're fine and dandy, you're good, you're in perfect health. So you go home. And then when you come back the next time, he will take a really wellness check on you. So that means you're going through blood tests. You're going through ears, your throat, your weight, everything you'll go through very detailed. And then another good clear slate of your health. So you went home happy. And then you got sick. Then you got rushed to the hospital, emergency. They found out you're in 3rd or 4th stage cancer. And then they have a prediction that, I'm sorry to say, but you probably have 2 to 3 months to live. I mean, my question is on the blood test, the timely of the doctors seeing you. Why they did not detect through the blood test that you have an inch of cancer instead of saying you're all good and healthy? But then very shortly, you end up in the counting of the days that you're going to pass because you're already on stage 4. Mm-hmm. I'm just curious because this will be a death call in the brain, in the mind of the patient because of time. And how would you deal with your doctor and your health history and the issue itself?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's a kind of a multi-layered question, I think, and the rather answer to your question. First of all, I think, and I'll talk a little bit about your relationship with your provider. And of course, you want to hear good things. So when the doctor's giving you good news, you're like, okay, I'm fine. But I think that's why we're doing these kinds of talks, so to give women and men more information about what they can ask their providers about. Like, for example, mammograms. Mammogram is the best tool for breast cancer. Colonoscopies are the best tool for colon cancer. Pap tests are the best tool for cervical cancer. If you're not getting those tests on a regular basis, you need to push back on your provider and say, I haven't had a mammogram in 2 years. Why haven't I had a mammogram? And I haven't had a pap test, or whatever the tool or the screening is. Asking and being comfortable asking why you're not getting those screenings is really important. And if you're not satisfied with the answer, then you have the choice to maybe change providers, and that's okay. It's hard to find a provider that you really sync with. It's not hard. It can be hard, but hopefully you find one that you can work with and ask those questions and feel like you're being heard and that you feel like you have a satisfied answer. Because if you're not getting those screenings, there's no blood test for breast cancer, for example. There's a blood test for markers, in terms of like if you have a higher level of maybe activity, there is a blood test, but that's usually something that they give you after you've been diagnosed with breast cancer. So really the tools, like I mentioned before, the mammogram. And if you have a mammogram and it says, maybe it doesn't look completely right, then I would encourage you to ask them about a diagnostic mammogram. And all of those different kinds of treatment techniques and maybe even an ultrasound help you understand what's going on with your breast. So being comfortable asking the provider about those questions is really important to make sure that you are not being overlooked and a potential problem isn't being overlooked. Oftentimes, if you have a irregular diagnostic mammogram, they will do a biopsy. And biopsies are actually probably the best way to understand what's going on in an area, because a biopsy can tell you or tell your provider whether you have cancer cells in that area. And if you do, then they will start the treatment at hopefully an early stage. So I don't know if that answered your question completely, but the regularity of the screenings are really important.
Okay. I thank you. This is just something that's, very, very commonly experienced by our people. And sometimes it's not interpreted right to the patient. Because I remember I had a friend that had uterus cancer. Mm-hmm. And early detection, I think, is to have anybody accompany the patient to every appointment. Someone that is very, very aware of what to question, what to ask, and listen to the output of the doctor in place at that time. Because I remember
that's an excellent suggestion.
So many people that, instead of having like mammograms, that's a must for people that have breast cancer. Uterus, they should have detection on uterus cancer. Blood cancers, all those. There's so many cancer in everybody's varieties of their medical experiences, but something to detect it early, so this person will have time to figure it out, how to deal with it. At the same time, waiting for that short time that she's already experienced presently. Yeah. So I want to thank you But I guess Sylvia, I think we have to have some kind of materials to print out in our language that will be in mediation with doctor, the helper, and the patient. So the patient will have to go and bring an older person that's more knowledgeable to medical. Like we have a lot of retired nurses in our community. Someone that will take time to go and interpret it right to the doctor and back from the doctor, the most serious. Because even if you feel the inkling of pain that is so out of normality, I'm sure you would probably think, oh gosh, I hope I don't have cancer, that type of thing. At least you get pushed into the doctor to see and tell them what's wrong with you, other than you just lay back until your next appointment. You just lay back until the next appointment. I think when you feel a pain or anything that is out of normality, I think it's time for you to talk straight up with the doctor what's going on. And I thank you for your guest, or your honored guest here, letting us deal with helping us deal with our different kind of medical issues, because the county should hear it, because we are a group of very healthy people find ourselves in America with all kinds of medical mishaps. Yes.
Thank you, Brenda. Thank you for taking the time, to join us and also share that. It's also like, that's why we have like the Marshallese, we have the Samoan, we have the Fijian, and then we have the Tongan, these are the leaders from our PI community. And please take some time, to share it in your native language, to your community abroad, because that's what the purpose, we got this information and then we'll share it, in our native language, so that our people could understand and inherit those great information that's being shared by Jody also.
No, it's beautiful, Sylvia, that you're there, because the media is the best thing, but we also have people who preferred to read what the paper said that the doctor gave you, and it's in our language. That's probably the best. Right. But I really want to thank you for taking it this far to help our people, and I appreciate all these leaders. I know I understand, but this is something that it almost just gives me a heart attack when I have a friend and all of a sudden she's counting days to her death,
Right.
And
it's hard.
It's just really, really grilling me in the head.
I think in the future we'll have another program, about that discussion, but today we'll just take this time, and get the breast cancers, discussion or breast cancer awareness, because of our time is limited. We only got 10 more minutes to go. And
wonderful. Thank you.
But thank you for joining us.
I want to mention something I think you said, and I think this is really important. When a person is dealing with difficult conversation, your suggestion of having somebody go with and be that other listener is really important, because usually the patient is a little overwhelmed. It's scary. It can be really difficult to hear some of the things that a provider is talking about. So having that other pair of ears is really important. And also I wanted to mention too that if a person doesn't speak English and would like an interpreter, by law, they're supposed to be given an interpreter so they can understand what the process is for next steps in terms of dealing with whatever health issue a person is faced with. And also the program that I'm with is called the Breast, Cervical, and Colon Health Program. And it helps people who don't have insurance get regular screenings for cervical and breast cancer. And usually the eligibility is something that is for women 21 to 64. And there's some income qualifications, and you can qualify for Medicaid or Apple Health, which is the Washington Medicaid. But if you don't have access to a doctor, you should call our Community Health Access Program, which I think Sylvia has that number. It's 1-800-756-5437, and they can help you with maybe even getting insurance or referring you to the Breast, Cervical, and Colon Health Program, or helping you with any access to healthcare. Or sometimes people have financial constraints that they want to make sure they understand. And this health access program, CHAP, Community Health Access Program, is really a good resource in our community. And it's something that King County Public Health is very committed to try to help people with those kinds of access questions.
Thank you, Jody. I see that since we only got a few more minutes, I see Brenda Collect,
Okay.
have another question. Go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you again, Sylvia. Okay, Jody, how do we teach our community when it comes to mammogram about taking it? Because this is what I have heard from the community. I'm like, have you had your mammogram? And they're like, oh no, we're not taking that. Yes, we heard that it's really hurt and painful. So, but from the 5 years that I've been doing my mammogram, just one time there was a little pressure on. And I asked the technique, and I'm like, I cannot feel pain. Is there? And then she's like, oh, okay, let me loosen it a little bit. So that communication. So I think if you feel it, maybe you should tell them that it's painful. But yeah.
Oh, such a good comment. And that's the one thing we did a study on why women didn't receive their mammograms, and that was one of the number one reasons, is that it was too painful for them. But they didn't say anything. They thought they just had to endure that pain. And it's really important. The mammogram techs who do the mammogram want to make sure that they're doing this to help the patient. And so they will work with people, and they will make sure that it's going to be some pressure, but it doesn't have to be painful. So some people have said that they started crying because it was so painful, and it should not be that painful. So speak up, make sure you tell women in your community to say, this hurts too much, and they will adjust. And the machines are getting better in terms of being able to adjust the pressure on the machine so that it is the least painful as possible. And in some cases, that's why in some cases they do an ultrasound as well. So it doesn't have to be something that is excruciating pain, and it shouldn't be the reason why they're not getting a regular mammogram.
Thank you.
Did it answer your question, Brenda? I think I see somebody. Is that Lydia from the Fijian community? Yeah, Lydia Taunu from the islands of Fiji. It's coming late, just the canoe just arrived. Yeah, Lydia, I'll give you the last opportunity. We only got 5 more minutes to go. You can ask a question, about the breast cancer awareness. We have Jody Olson with us from the King County Public Health. Go ahead, Lydia.
Hi, ma'am. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you. I don't know the other questions that have been asked because I just got in. Just through experience in my community back home in Fiji, this is one of the worry, breast cancer. So many mothers have lost their lives, leaving the family to be motherless. and having the father looking after the children just because of of this um, this cancer, breast cancer. Majority of the ladies in Fiji got this, and then the critical thing about it is the health service in Fiji is not up to par compared to what we have here. Um, one thing is the worry. That's one thing that always stop people from going out and seek advice is the worry. Worry and the feeling of ashamed to ask questions. Because at the back of our mind, in every woman, when it comes to cancer, death is the next word. So from us, the Fijian community, from my angle, all I can say is the Fijians here needs more awareness on this because this is a new land for them, and most of us they don't know which door to knock on. Um, just when I joined, I heard a toll-free number to call, and I would love to get that number again. Maybe after this, I'll get it from you, madam, so I can share it to the ladies here, the Fijian ladies. So when we talk about cancer, I lost some of my families in Fiji. The thing that we are told it's a regenerative sickness. So if your mom or if your grandmother's got it, someone along the line will also get it. That's how we know about cancer. How true is it? We still don't know. So can you clarify on that? Is it a generation thing or what? Thank you.
A couple comments about your question. I will give you that phone number before I leave, before I quit talking. But I wanted to mention too that whole generational thing because it's really important. Those are stories that people hear through the generation and or through the through their conversations about family history and it can be really difficult when you hear how people died 30 40 years ago because again the treatments were not as good as they are today and they didn't like I said earlier sometimes people felt the treatments were worse than the cancer and when you hear those stories it makes future generations feel really nervous and scared about what that journey will look like for them. And that's why I think it's really important to talk to people in your community that things are much better. Get involved with, if you can, research studies that would better represent people in your community. But I think the most important thing is really, I think, these are personal kinds of body parts. Our breasts, our cervix, and our colon, which all have great screening tools. They're really things that people sometimes don't want to talk about. It's private. It's a private body part. And it's hard to talk about the fact that you have a funny lump on your breast. And it's hard to bring up with your friends or your family or even a doctor. But I think encouraging people that that conversation could change the outcome of their lives. I think that in itself is really important to tell your friends, your family members, your colleagues that having those conversations may be difficult, but it really could save your life. And I think that's it's not easy. And again, sometimes you don't even want people to touch those body parts. So it's a difficult barrier, but it's one of the barriers that I really encourage everybody that they have to have conversations to really discuss breaking that barrier because it's really imperative that touch and examination and conversation about those kinds of things happens, and it really can save people's lives. The number for access is for health access. It's called the Community Health Access Program. This is a program of Public Health Seattle and King County, and they can give you resources for the breast, cervical, and colon health program. They can help you find insurance. They can help you find a clinic that is close to where you live. And that number is 1-800 756-5437. Did that answer your, or
We got
help
the
you
phone number.
answer your question, or the thoughts that you have? Okay.
Thank you so much. I look at the time here, it's 1 minute after 11. I'd like to take this opportunity to give it to a communicator that connecting us, with this great opportunity. Kate Cole, do you have anything that you wanted to share? We'll give you best comes at last, eh? Kate Cole.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. I just really appreciate you and the community making so much time for us to have our experts on to talk about this topic and many other health topics. And thank you to Jody for taking the time.
Okay, thank you everyone. We're coming over to the conclusion of our program today. First of all, Pastor Aseli, also Lupe Talamoni from the Samoan community. First Tongan Senior Program, Seattle First Tongan Community for the senior program, Sina Aloita Funapeka. Also, I have Pastor Aseli with the leading us with the word of prayer. And I have Brenda Kellett. She's representing, the King County Public Health. She also worked with them too, but from the Marshallese community. And then I have also Lydia Tangunu from the islands of Fiji also. So the main important thing, even though it's just us here, we like doing discussion, and also Brenda Kongaika for joining us. It's so nice, that you get this information and share it out. The phone number that we posted is also like for the health resources, for the King County. Thank you again, Jody Olson. Thank you for taking the time, your specialists, your skills, and your knowledge, help us, because this is one of the most affected, chronic disease in our community, especially with the Pacific Islanders. Thank you again, and then I'll just finish up, with a song here from the islands of Fiji. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Ofatu in our Tongan
Ofatu.
language. How do you say in Fiji?
Ode.
Lydia, say bye-bye in Fiji in your native language. Okay, Pastor Aseli. Brenda Kellett.
Mode.
Pariakwe.
Okay, I think the next time we're gonna have a class here.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Just to remind you, all the community leaders, we have the youth summit, and then they also need some volunteers. It's a health summit. It's the address is right there. It's this coming Friday, and start from 9 a.m. till 4 p.m. It's Islands Root Global Impact, for health, and they have all these different health resources in there, sponsored, by Pierce County and King County. So please come and join, and we also have some cultural performance and also cultural food too. So we're gonna go there, Sina, this coming Friday. Also, I just wanted to remind everybody, the funeral of Robert Ames, even though he was with us, more in the Tongan community. His whole life for 50 years, he was with the Tongan community. He passed on his 88 years old. That's a long life. But we know this person here, he was married to a Tongan lady, which is Sina auntie, Akosita Tupo Ames. And Akosita passed in 2015, and now Robert finally, leave us from this life. Robert, we always remember you. Thank you so much, for helping our Tongan community Thank you for always being with us. And Robert was just like more like a Tongan. The funeral will be this coming Thursday, and then we will post it, on our program, the address for the funeral. But Robert, rest in eternal peace. You leave us a lot of great memories with the way how you live us. And he always loved to dress up, always like very nice formatized attire in every activities of the islanders, and he has so much respect with our Tongans. His funeral, it's gonna be at the funeral home in Kent. It will be on Central Avenue, which is connecting to the Open Way, and the burial is gonna be in Aurora Avenue. We'll put up the details in here. Robert Ames have two sons. One is Mahe Daloa and also Fale'i Daloa. Rest in eternal peace, Robert. We do miss you.
So ya mo sa mga cholo lau malo la vor fi le fon fo ile pulang malo sel twinga ile to finga cholua ya vor fi ya pua le so ya apulu pena malo staff malo sel twinga ya ucha tu cha fa chas ne cholo la fi le so ya sidi malo la vor fi ya vor forever. Here we go. Malo la vor fi video apart. Here we go. All right. Everybody